WGMGAGE, what is going on, ladies and gentlemen? We are back for another episode of Cup of Joe with Web3 Joe. That's Web3 Job Ops and Events, which powers these amazing spaces. That's your hub, headquarters, home base for Web3 talent and recruitment. Make sure you reach out to me. Join that Telegram in the bio of the Web3 Job Ops page. You can find a lot of good job opportunities regularly coming through at all levels, by the way. Junior, mid-level, senior roles. So make sure to tap in. We'd love to have you in there. And we are here every Wednesday, every Friday, 9:30 a.m. Pacific, 12:30 p.m. Eastern, talking how to get hired in Web3. Today, we got a very special guest here with us. His name is Mr. Donnie. He's a valued team member over at Famojis, a OG collection on Bitcoin. And we're really excited to have him here with us. Donnie, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. Just waking up, catching up, doing the stuff, and tuning in. What's up with you?
I'm good, man. I was looking forward to this chat. Always excited to get to chop it up with you. I know you were in, was it Hong Kong? Was that where the
Yeah.
event was?
Yeah,
How was
man. We
that?
were in Hong Kong about a week and a half ago or something for a week. It was great. The Bitcoin conference was boring. It was not it had nothing to do with Bitcoin. It was all like treasury companies and paper Bitcoin stuff like Metaplanet, which, some people find exciting. I learned a little bit about it, but I didn't really change the way I think about much stuff in general. And the side event, the Bitcoin Summit, was cool if you like tokens and treasury companies. But again, since my focus is so heavily on art, I was a little less than excited about both of them. But spending a lot of time with people I like, going to museums and art galleries and stuff, I mean, it was one of the best conferences I'd ever been to if you take into consideration the entire trip. So we had a hoot, me and Ingrid together there.
Oh, that's amazing. And had you been to Hong Kong before?
Yeah, I went last year for the same conference, but it was a very different vibe because things were more. It's funny. Bitcoin was like half the price it is now, but for some reason, everything was like way more exciting. you know, like I feel like everyone's just been paralyzed into worrying about whether it's going to keep going up, and they've stopped caring about anything that's happening like within the ecosystem. So last year's conference was nuts, on both accounts, I think. And this year's conference just felt a little deflated from my point of view. Maybe it's just because I was comparing it to a really good time last time. But when I was in Hong Kong last time, I didn't do anything other than go to the conferences. So this time I did a lot of stuff other than go to the conferences. And I think it was equally cool, man. It was still a really good time just doing other stuff.
Well, you got to be a conference vet at this point. I know you're constantly traveling to make sure you make it to these events. How
Yeah,
about the
dude, 12 a year at least. Yeah, it's a lot.
12 a year? Is that like how does that
Minimum.
average out? Is that like that's not one a month? But that
Yeah.
means is it like one a month?
Yeah, sometimes it's like Art Basel in Miami. Sometimes it's like Nashville, Vegas, stuff like that. Sometimes it's Amsterdam or Paris,
And what's that
NFT
like for
Paris or
you?
whatever.
Do you enjoy all that travel? I mean, you got
Yeah,
to right at this point.
yeah, dude, I love it. I love it. I think it's easy for us to think we hate stuff like that because airplanes are kind of uncomfortable and you can't control your food as much and you got to like sit next to strangers and stuff. But if you think about it, you're sitting still in the air going 700 miles an hour. No one's ever been able to do this before, as far as we know. I think it's riveting and it's terrifying too because I always feel like the plane's going to crash. So like I get on the plane, I'm like, I accept death. I'm cool with everybody I've ever interacted with. I think I've made peace with everything. And then when I land, I'm like, oh my God, I'm still alive. This is insane.
And then how about the jet lag? Are you recovered from the jet lag?
Oh,
I know you got to be
barely,
a pro at
barely.
that too at this point too. I know you were
We
like
got good at
flying
it, man.
leading up
Okay.
to it.
So this is like an 11-hour time difference in Hong Kong. It's about as far away as you can get from where we are. So the 5 or 6 days leading up, Ingrid and I went to sleep 2 hours earlier every day to the point where the day we left, we were flying out at like midnight the day we left. We went to bed at 2 p.m. We woke up at 10 p.m. So then by the time we got to Hong Kong, we were on Hong Kong time. So the conference was smooth, dude. It felt like we lived there. Coming back though, my body, I mean, I was going to bed at the right time and waking up at the right time. There was no discrepancy there. But while I was awake, my brain was like, what are you doing up right now? Like, you should just go to bed. And I'd try to have a coffee. And they'd be like, stop drinking coffee. Just go back to bed. It's nighttime. So I think I just got out of that like yesterday. It took almost a week for me to feel normal.
Good, man. Well, we're glad to have you back. Glad you made it over there safely, did what you wanted to do, and you made it back. We're happy to have you here
Yep.
on this space. Go ahead.
No,
Yeah.
nothing. I was just saying, hell yeah. Yeah.
Hell yeah. And shout out to Kramer. I see you in the audience. Shout out to Bonna. I see you in the audience. Shout out to anyone listening to the recording, whether here on X, on Spotify, or on YouTube. We've been really good at getting our episodes out on other platforms. So if you make it over there, that's bonus points for you. Once again, we are here every Wednesday, every Friday at 9:30 a.m. Pacific, 12:30 p.m. Eastern, talking how to get hired in Web3. And these spaces are powered by none other than Web3 Job Ops and Events, which is the main host. So check them out. Let's go ahead and dive in. I did pin up the Spaces promo tweet. It's the first tweet up top. If you want to show some love, retweets, likes, comments, everything is appreciated. And then, the second pin tweet is a couple events we have coming up. One of them is for Token 2049. The other is for KBW, which is coming up very soon. So check us out if you happen to be over there. Donnie, are you traveling to either one of those, Token 2049 or KBW?
No, we got to be cool with not overdoing it sometimes. So we're
Yeah.
skipping those. Yeah.
Good, good. I'm happy to hear it. Well, let's go ahead and dive in. Donnie, it's great to have you. I'd love to set the stage by just letting you go ahead and give us a brief intro, who you are, what you do, and how you started doing it.
I ran restaurants and bartended for like 25 years up until 2 or 3 years ago. And sometime, maybe it was like 5, 6 years ago, my ex girlfriend's ex boyfriend brought up XRP, and he was like one of those people who thinks it's going to 10,000 token and like going to change the financial system. And I didn't at that point in time, I didn't know anything about it. So even now, I can't tell him he's wrong. Like I don't know the future. But at the time, I was like, that sounds stupid. Sure, I'll buy some. Bought some. Did a bunch of reading about what a ledger was in general, not the hardware device, but like the concept of blockchain, keeping a ledger. um, and I became kind of obsessed with, let's say, assets in general, like how this digital structure was going to interact with IRL things and how it was going to interact with new things that existed in this digital space, such as NFTs or other, whatever online contracts of some sort. And it led me into Solana NFTs eventually. And then Ordinals, when Ordinals popped up around 2023, I just dove headfirst into that. I liquidated everything I had anywhere, bought Bitcoin only, and then started paying attention and researching this because the value proposition was unique. And it still is, despite the price action, because things go up, things go down. It's kind of inconsequential if you ask me, but um, the marketing is bad when the money's bad, right? So nobody's thinking about it right now. I'm still obsessed though, because it was beyond money for me. And I ended up landing a position with Femojis being on the core team by just constantly being on spaces and making content about ordinals because everything about it was so new and unknown, I guess. Most people who were in any community, even the Bitcoin communities, the pre existing ones, didn't really understand most of the technical side of why ordinals existed, what made it different, and most of all, how to navigate it. So I think a large part of my position at the moment is not only creative stuff, but keeping people in line with like whenever a new participant comes into the space. Yeah, I don't know if you've ever used the Ordinals protocol at all, but even just downloading Xverse Wallet, there's two address types. Like there's a SegWit address and a Taproot address, and you put your spending money in one and your Ordinals in another. And it's because the protocol is basically Bitcoin is so different from everything else that it requires this kind of split more or less. So like it's things as basic as just explaining that to new people as they come in the door requires like a lot of attention. So I mean, a big part of my job is just keeping people afoot with the changes and setup of this protocol.
And so this was your first Web3 role, right?
No, actually, I've skipped
Okay.
over one. Somewhere in between me being notified about XRP and getting into Solana NFTs, I became interested in this layer one blockchain called Ontology, which is a decentralized identity tech stack, essentially, that was born of AntShares or Neo, if you know that one. It's a Chinese company. And I just really liked what they were doing. There was a lot of like in my explorations of proof of stake and consensus mechanisms and token distributions and tech stacks regarding DID, because DID is still something I think we haven't really breached yet as a topic. I just got really involved in it, and they saw that I was involved in it and offered me a very part-time position with just like a quarterly payout for having done some stuff like running spaces and writing articles about the technology. Yada, yada, yada. But it was
So
it was pretty part-time.
in both of those examples, you mentioned that you were already involved, you already had interest, you were already excited about what was going on, and
Yeah,
that led
yeah.
to the team noticing and saying, "Hey, yo, let's give you a more official role."
That's kind of that's how every job I've ever gotten is how I've gotten the job. Okay, so when I was 19 years old, I was working at Subway. I had to like put in an application at Subway. So somewhere between like 17 and 19 years of age, I worked at a Subway sandwich shop, and I had to put in a paper application for that, just like the grocery store before that and Old Navy before that. But when I was 19, my sister knew the owner of a bar that was in downtown Buffalo. It was on like one of the main bar strips, and she wanted to get me a job as a bar back there. So I just got in the door by her telling her friend that I was available, and I like worked hard. Um, and then from there on, like another bar owner saw me working and was like, "Do you want to come bartend at this place?" It was 2 years later, and everything just kind of like continued to happen through there. I think the thing you're most passionate about is the thing you end up doing because people see that and they want you there. I think it is not sustainable for either party if someone ends up taking a job and becoming passionate about something because they were offered money for it. That feels backwards to me. And I know a lot of the time that's just how it goes. But if you're doing it right, or if you're lucky enough, I guess, you can just like love doing something and eventually someone will want to pay you money for it, or maybe you can make money on your own doing
So, in my experience, I feel part of the reason I love Web3 so much, and it comes up almost every single week on this show, of people coming up and saying, I was passionate, I was interested, they took note, and then they gave me an official role. I think that that's possible, and if you work hard and you're passionate enough, that can happen in any industry in the world. But I happen to have the opinion that in Web3, the rewards just are exponential, and it's the opportunity for people like you, for people listening, to exemplify their worth and their value is just much higher, in part because it's so social focused, in part because it's so IRL focused as well, events wise. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know what's the specific question there. Sorry.
Like, do you think there's more opportunity in Web3 to
Uh,
exemplify your passion, your worth, than maybe traditional Web2?
Yeah, I think inherently there has to be a faster pivot and a lighter foot in Web3 companies because it's brand new territory. And I know where a lot of us are just running the playbook from previous companies and just like putting them on paper or digital paper as a Web3 company. But most companies that are building something that's of note, they have to be really quick to turn and they have to like do new stuff and not adhere to old company policies that have like I don't know, like the benefits of keeping your workers in line and having a very like repetitive schedule in like a manufacturing facility are apparent. You don't need your manufacturing facility line workers to be creative necessarily. You may have a couple of creative positions, but like most of them are not. I would say most positions in Web3 companies have to be creative positions because the organism that is the company needs to be constantly learning and evolving. So yeah, maybe there are more opportunities to do that, but there's also a lot more people at let's say in line for the jobs because there's no geographic limitation. It's just anyone who's got a phone or a computer can be a candidate for the job. So I don't know. The landscape has changed a lot. I don't really have any strong opinions on that, but in a way, there are way more opportunities here, and at the same time, there's way more competition.
Yeah, that's a great point actually, and I don't consider that as often. I mean, I think all the time about how Web3 is global, and I just think of it so much as a positive because it is. But you highlighting the fact that it comes with more competition, even though it comes with more opportunity, is a very great point.
I'm old,
I want
so I'm 41. So I remember when like phones, like I didn't have a phone throughout my teenage years. It's pretty crazy, right? I mean, we had one that plugged into the wall, but it wasn't like a phone as we know phones today. So I think I have a pretty unique perspective as being like a boomer in this space. Technically a millennial, but like everybody would call me a boomer probably. I have a unique perspective on what job, what applying for a job used to look like, and even what a job used to look like, because it's dramatically different than it was.
man, a phone plugged into the wall. What an
Dude,
image.
rotary. I grew up with a rotary phone, like a spin. You don't even know what that is?
Rotary.
I
Oh
know,
my
I know, dude.
lord.
wild.
Wow, that is a time. You've seen all the all the evolution of technology. That's a lot. I'm in a similar boat. I'm a millennial as well. But here on Twitter, I'm unk. I'm a boomer. And I'm not even 30 yet, but I will be soon. And I'm not mad at it. I'm still a forever student of the game. But
Oh,
I
you're
want
like
to.
the last millennial.
Yeah, I am. I
Sick.
am.
Cool.
I'm 96. I think it might end at 97. It might. I think it might, but I'm like right there. I want to ask you. So you've held a couple different roles. One more part time. One that you just dove into here with emojis. Has it been what you expected, or kind of what did you expect going into working in this industry? And has it been? Has it met those expectations? How has it, and how has it not?
It I had no idea what I was getting into. I've never had a job where you don't have to do anything at any particular time unless someone specifically tells you you have to. Like my whole life I've been going to work at say 2 p.m. and getting out at 2 a.m. 5 days a week. That's it. And then I have like office hours other days. And there was like one work from home day where I just had to get something done, but it didn't really matter when. My life now, Tuesday is no different from Saturday. And there's no start time, there's no finish time. It's just kind of speckled throughout my life evenly. And the big difference here is that I can't develop a routine unless I make myself a routine, which has been a little bit strange. So like on a personal level, I now get to go to the gym whenever I want, but I have to make sure to make that time. Otherwise the day can just evaporate where I'm staring at a computer and taking care of tasks that I'm supposed to. And then it's like it goes from 10 a.m. to midnight and all of a sudden I'm like, did I even move off did I even brush my teeth today? Like I see why people make fun, like the Taproot Wizards have been making fun of people for not showering because when you live at home on your computer, like you got to make your own rails, and that's pretty strange. Also, the style of work, I didn't get asked to do one thing to fill like Femojis is like two people. So it's kind of just whatever comes up. If it could end up being marketing material, I could end up having to learn to use Procreate or some pixel art program. It could be showing up to spaces and just talking about stuff that I like have a half expertise on, providing opinions. Kind of like you could call it brand building, I guess, where like I talk about things in a specific way, and then people look at the profile picture and they think, what a reasonable take, or they think this person is not scared or is I don't know, easy to talk to, or whatever they're going to think about me. So a lot of it is just this no name, no direction, let's do some cool stuff. Like it changes every week, because like I said, we got to be light and there's a lot of positions and we both have to be a lot of them.
And obviously, you're comfortable. I mean, you're comfortable. You excel in that kind of role. I'm not sure if everybody would. Some people kind of prefer more structure, but for you, it works.
It was one of the first things Sanj asked me when we were talking about this. He was like, are you going to be okay with like not having to be somewhere at a specific time and sometimes doing things out of bounds of like whatever hours you're used to? And I was like, I don't know, but I'm certainly willing to find out. I have brain damage from a snowboarding accident when I was a kid. I can't form memories properly. So I don't really think I notice that much when I'm put into a very different situation and now just have to make a new routine, because like kind of every day I have to make myself a new routine anyway. So I think I might be in a unique position where that sort of change is not really that impactful to me. Not negatively anyway.
I'd bet, just from the time that I've known you, that I think it probably has something to do with just like your outlook as well. You just seem like the kind of guy that just looks on the bright side, and I have a feeling you've always been like that.
It's tough to
Uh,
say which is which,
yeah,
whether
probably a
chicken
little,
or egg,
maybe a
right?
little
It
bit of
could
both.
be. Yeah, could
Yeah.
be both.
And you mentioned brand building, which I'm really happy you did, because every week on the show we try to have a theme of the week that kind of dials in on one specific point in the getting hired process. And this week it's brand building. So we're gonna dive into that, get into more of the nitty gritty practical advice in a second. But my last question on this section is: are there any milestones that you're especially proud of accomplishing since you started working in Web3?
I think it's gaining a technical grasp for what, and this might sound stupid, but it's just the answer that's popping into my head first. I think it's gaining a technical grasp for how Bitcoin works because it works very differently than every other state chain out there. Because every other, like, if I had to summarize this, I would say that every chain that you interact with is aware of everything that's going on within it at all times. It's called a state chain. Or Ethereum is aware of all the NFTs and all the places that all the Ethereum Ether token is at all times. Bitcoin just keeps a ledger transaction by transaction, and no transaction is aware of any other transaction. But if you climb backwards through the blockchain, you can find the origin of things and places things have been, and thereby where they currently are. So like in one way, there's an architecture, like with Bitcoin anyway, there's an architecture that allows you to figure out or maybe use an API to call data to find out what's going on somewhere, but the chain itself is not aware of any of that. And that's one of the main limitations, but also I think one of the main strengths of Bitcoin. um, Getting to wrap my head around that, like I always think I understand it, and then 6 months later I'm like, damn, I didn't understand any of it 6 months ago. Now I understand it. And then 6 months go by and I'm like, no, now I understand it. I didn't understand it at all 6 months, and I'm saying it now like I understand it. I probably don't, and I'm going to learn more. And that's one of the, I would say that the major milestones have been these like click points where I understand how to use specific software that gives me more of an edge into, like, see more insight into how this software works, how this protocol works. So those are the milestones. Milestones are
I
more
love that
understanding.
answer. I love that answer because it's part of what I love about being in this industry as well. It's like if you're gonna be here, you're challenged every single day to be focused and paying attention, at least, right? You have to know what's going on in the environment, in the context of the world, in the context of politics, in the context of technology. You don't have to be an expert. I don't want people to feel overwhelmed when I say that, but you do have to have your finger on the pulse. And I'm saying that as a positive because it allows you and it motivates you and it pushes you to learn and to expand your knowledge base that much more and to make you that much better of a team member, of an individual overall. So I absolutely resonate with that and love that answer. Let's dive into building your reputation, brand building in Web3. This is something I've been excited to chat about because there's like it seems like two schools of thought in this, at least on CT. It's like the one, and they're on two extremes, which they usually are, right? And most things are usually not on the extreme; they're more in the middle. But that's how we talk about things. So, or sometimes we do. But the one side is like, oh, CT and crypto industry has the attention span of a goldfish, right? The bad actors come and then they rug and they do malicious things and then they come back and they do it again and again and again. Nobody cares. And then the other side is like, well, no, people care and the blockchain remembers and people who matter will remember and the people that you want to work with are the ones that pay attention to that kind of stuff and will remember, and it plays out over the longer term, even if on the day to day it doesn't necessarily feel like that. So what are your thoughts on like that kind of summary assessment that I just laid out, and kind of where do you fall?
Oh boy. Um, so when it's crime season and the people come back who we know are like doing things that we didn't like last time, I think we didn't like them because we didn't win on them. It's kind of like if a whale goes by in the water and it's like really aggressive. If you have a surfboard and you can surf it really well, you like the whale. And you don't mind when the whale comes by, even if it destroys beachfront huts and anybody who's not equipped with a surfboard at the time because they didn't get the warning, they drown or get hurt or something like that. It's two different views of the exact same thing. And I think that people don't like it when they lose and they don't mind that kind of crap when they win. So, like, if you're the kind of person who sees an engagement farming KOL as an opportunity, then that's what it is to you. And that's the brand that they've built. And that's why they have tons of followers, because a lot of these people see them as an opportunity rather than as a destructive force. I'd mute those people because I don't think I'm as monetarily motivated as most people in this space. And I'm not judging them. I'm judging myself for this. I think that I'm the weirdo. But I mute all of them because I don't care. I don't want to be engagement baited into like wondering what the next token is. That's not a valuable proposition to me. So I think as long as everyone's clear, which they are in their motives, no one's really at a loss. Because if you tried to gamble on something like that, then It's the game you played. If you play the lottery, you might not win it, and that's okay. You've chosen to do that. So I don't choose to ascribe any moral structure to it, but I do think that everything we do adds to the reputation that others perceive us by. And when we make a new account to, let's say, make a new reputation, we leave all that old reputation behind, which can have both good and bad side effects. Like if I made a new account, I would just have to redefine Donnie, which sucks. I don't want to have to do that because like I feel like I've done a pretty good job of just being consistent. Not that it's a job, it's me, but I've been really consistent. I've shown up to a lot of stuff and people see me as X, Y, or Z because of that. If I make a new account, I don't get any of that. So like now I have to be charming enough to be noticed and be trusted, which is way more difficult. So like I think when it's crime season and people are making new accounts to do stuff, we don't know not to trust them, but we also don't know to trust them. And it's up to us completely to decide whether or not like we want to live on that hype, the like we can't prove it wrong yet hype, or if we want to play it safe and just say, I don't know who this is, I'm not doing it. You know? It's completely up to the user, which I think is freeing and also scary for a lot of people.
I think you have a really, as usual, reasonable take on that, and I appreciate you highlighting that. Hey, people have different purposes and different motivations here, and a lot of us, I would say all of us are motivated, at least in part, by money in this space. It's a spectrum, some more than others, and there are certain accounts that I can think of that absolutely fit that scope of like, they're the big KL, that's what they do. Some people see it as opportunity, some people mute, like yourself. I would add that again, everything's on a spectrum, but the more malicious actors are the ones that aren't as, their intention isn't as clear, their motive isn't as clear, and sometimes you think it's A when it's really B, so that they can do something malicious like rug, or do something crazy. So I think that needs to be acknowledged as well. And I also don't think you're the weirdo. I think the people who actually kind of feed into that, not necessarily are weirdos, but they're not doing the best to push the space forward. And I'm
I
not trying to sit here on no
yeah.
moral high ground.
Yeah, I
Go
also
ahead.
wasn't trying to like, degrade myself by saying that. I just wanted to make it clear that I'm not thinking ill of anybody who's like trying to ride those waves because there is opportunity in those. I just know it's not my game. But if a new account comes out of absolutely nowhere and does talking about like, I don't know, let's just play the 2021 game, staking, metaverse, uh, I don't know, breeding, new collections for you have to have all the Ponzi stuff that we're used to. If a new account comes up and starts talking about that stuff, that smells weird to me because I don't know who that is, right? But a lot of people really like that. So I feel it's just completely on the user. And if you get duped, I mean, I don't know. Like I think I was talking in some server earlier. If I walk down the street and there's a homeless guy and he's like, "Hey, man, I don't mean to be asking for money, but I just need a place to sleep for this one night, and then I'll be good for the rest of my life. I just need $20 for this bed at this place." If I believe that, it's on me, right? It's like it's not on him to tell the truth to me. It's on me to be like, okay, well, I mean, I'll take the risk, or I won't take the risk, or I don't know who you are, and you're probably here every day doing the same thing, right? Like it's a very similar situation, and we have no one to blame but ourselves. I think at the end of the day, when we engage in things like that. So the reason I don't is because I'm just not willing to roll the dice and then be out a grand on something I didn't really believe in to begin with, but I trusted a complete stranger that it was a good idea. It's like I don't know where that sounds like a good idea to me.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think we all have to take accountability for sure, on our level of education and our actions, and understand that there is no crying in the casino, right?
Fact.
So good point. I want to ask on the same topic. You mentioned earlier, like part of your role with Femojis is rocking that Femoji and being you. So I know reputation plays a big role in like what you do. How would you describe your reputation? How do you think others would describe your reputation? And what would you attribute, what characteristics, traits about yourself would you attribute that reputation to?
Well, just to be clear, I don't have to wear this PFP. I actually took a 2 week hiatus and just cycled through a bunch of things that I have. I treat PFPs like clothing, and I always have this closet full of clothing I really like, but I never wear it because it just feels incohesive and it's confusing to people when I change it all the time. So I like I don't know. It's like having a beard one day and shaving the next day, and then wearing a clown wig the next day. It's like eventually no one's gonna even pay attention to me because I'm like, who even am I, right? So for the sake of consistency, I mostly rest on this, but it's not like mandatory that I do that. Um, as far as reputation goes, it's really difficult to say how you're perceived. But what I would hope people think is that I have reasonable standpoints, logical takes, um, act in a relatively altruistic way, not to the point where like I'm dying and everyone else is getting rich because of my sacrifices, but like if I have too much of something, I'm not just gonna like hoard it. And if I make $1 million, I'm not gonna engagement farm that on the timeline because that's not like I don't see the productivity in that, you know? So I would hope that people who like want to seek knowledge and understanding find me to be a cool cohort in doing that, you know? Does that make sense? I don't know. I've never had to say that before. It feels weird to even try.
Yeah, no, I think it makes sense. And like you mentioned when you started, it's like it's really your perception of other people's perception of you, which is like kind of a hard question. But it's like I think there's still insight there. It's like intentions matter,
I would
and
think
like
people don't see me as an antagonist. I don't think they see me as an antagonist. I don't think they see me as an engagement farmer who says things to bait them into asking more questions. I think there's a lot of things I can safely say people don't see me as. But as far as what they do see, I can't be fully sure because I only know what people have told me. And what people tell me relies on people electively doing that. And they know I'm listening. So there's like too many variables for me to think it's really true.
one of my favorite quotes is, and I'm not gonna quote it perfectly, but I do appreciate it. It's like there's three yous, right? There's the you that other people see. There's the you that you see because you perceive yourself because we have biases as humans, and then there's who you really are, and that's like a fluid thing. It's all like really, it gets really abstract, and it's really cool to think about, I think. But that kind of
I wonder which
summarizes.
one I just gave you. I think I just gave you the last one. And it was difficult for me to say that because it changes daily or weekly. Like you said, it's fluid.
I think you gave
Interesting.
me the second one because you gave me what you think.
Oh, yeah,
Well,
that's all I can give you because I
yeah,
can't
yeah.
think what I am. I can only think. Yeah,
We're
right.
getting
That's a
deep
good
here.
point.
We're
Yeah.
getting deep here. We're getting like deep in the weeds here. This is awesome. What advice would you have, Donnie, for people listening who are looking to either establish a reputation in Web3 or improve their reputation in Web3?
Be the thing you want it to see, like Michael Jackson. We're going to go on a quote rampage today. Be the change you want to see in the world. Go do whatever you wake up angry about every day. Do something to, if you wake up angry anyway, do something positive to further whatever change you'd like to see. If you think that there's not enough pixel art in the world, learn how to use a pixel art program. Make pixel art. Go just constantly post pixel art. Make a new thing every day. Hold yourself to standards that you've set for yourself. And then if you are trying to get a job doing that thing, be that be the candidate. Make your resume into your timeline. Make your timeline your resume. Make everything you've ever said or thought or been perceived as cohesive with the role that you want with any company that's willing to hire you for that role. Because I think that these days, since we have such a track record that's digitally available, it's difficult to even think a resume would matter more than an Instagram account, a Facebook account, Twitter timeline, whatever the employer is native to. LinkedIn if that's the case.
Well said. And how important is it to be visible in order to create opportunity for yourself in this industry? And by visible, I want you to take that however you define it, whether that be on the timeline, like you said, at events, in DMs, supporting other people's posts. How important is that, do you think, to create that opportunity?
I guess it is. I want to say it's really like critically important, but with the stipulation that any attention is not good attention, or all attention is not good attention. So, engagement farming and baiting people and being a negative Nancy, like reposting World Star fight videos is not going to get you like a cool creative or PR job somewhere unless you're getting hired by like the Slim Jim Instagram account to just farm. because I mean that is also a job. But again, that's you're building a resume for that job. So maybe posting is a part of that resume. But as far as I would say, if you want a job with a company doing something that you're good at, you do have to be at conferences and bump into people. Like I've just been catching up with people I met at conferences like 2.5 years ago and seeing what they've been building. And I've had some of the best phone calls I've ever had in my life. And half of them probably could end up being jobs at some point. Or if like I start a company, I would end up hiring these people because I've seen them be consistently them and consistently creative and pushing the boundaries while not making any negative waves for like 2.5 years now, which is as long as the ordinal space has been around. So I think that proving to the world that you are trustworthy and consistent, whatever that means, is important. And that does mean doing it in person, and it means doing it online, getting on phone calls with people that are not paying you, because like most of life isn't paid. And I think most of the value you can add to something comes down to you just doing it because you want to. And that is the resume builder that I think is most meaningful.
Well said. And then keeping on with the practical advice, I'm not, did you interview for your roles, or was it more of like a casual? You're coming on, and you were
I
like,
think
okay.
every interview I've ever had, for the most part anyway, has just been my previous actions. Even earlier, like in the bar industry, I have gotten sit down talks when I've started jobs before, but I've never blind interviewed with a company or a person I had never met before. Because I think in whatever industries I'm in, I've always been so like over the top invested in them personally. Like with bartending, I wasn't just like a bartender. I was like a bartender who spoke at conferences and wrote articles and was published in books. So anytime I would move to a new city, it would be really easy for me to find a job or just lean into old contacts to see who had an opening in a position that was relevant or something. So I think the more you do whatever it is you love doing, the more you bump into people who will eventually be those. What was the question again?
Well, I was
Am I
wondering
even answering it?
if you had interviewed. Yeah, you
Got it.
absolutely are.
Got it. Yeah,
And
yeah.
I
So the
love your
interview is
quote.
secondary.
Yeah.
The proof of it is primary. The proof of like who I am and what I like to do is always primary. The interview is secondary and usually just formality based. Like I sat down with my old boss at my last restaurant gig, and we just talked for like a half an hour about me moving back into that city, what types of hours I wanted to work, how I felt about the cocktail program at the bar, what were my long term goals, like just to wrap his head around where I was at in my life and what I might want to do if I bartend for 6 months. Am I going to want to get out of that? Do I want to open my own bar? Like, where do I want to be? So I think it's responsible of an employer, even if they already know you, to ask you a few questions about where you want to be, what you want to do, and how you're feeling right then, like what your mental health is like, stuff like that. So I think it's important to do that stuff, but it wasn't like how I got the job. I don't think it was just requisite of continuing the process.
Yeah, absolutely. I really appreciate your quote of the real interview was the work you did before. Like that's so true for so many people, especially again in this Web3 space. But it can be true in any industry. I have a couple more questions, and then we're going to start winding down. Negotiating. What advice do you have for people when it comes to negotiating that offer?
Man, I'm terrible at this. If I go to buy a car, I'm like, what's the sticker say? Okay, I either want it or I don't. I'm not even going to talk. I'm not trying to talk somebody down. So this is, from my perspective, honesty is the most important thing. There was a previous job that I was interviewing for, and they were like, what do you want to be paid? And I was like, well, here are three different numbers. One of them, you can call me in the middle of the night, any night. One of them, you have my full attention during work hours. And the other one, I'm probably going to have to find a second job. So, like, how much of me do you want? And then you can pick your A, B, or C option. And that's what you get, you know? Like, I have to
Oh
sleep,
man,
right?
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. I love that so much, and it's something that I think about. And I've had different roles, and I've felt that way where I'm like, well, the deal is good here, man. If you say jump, I'm say how high, but it's in my
Yeah,
head.
exactly.
And then I've had other deals where it's like, man, like, are you really hitting me up right now? Like, we need to, like, we might have
Yeah.
different expectations.
Clarity,
Mhm.
honesty is just like, I think honesty is number one. And if you're always like the kind of person who holds your cards close to your chest, maybe this is not the negotiating tactic for you. But I am since I have a bad memory, I can't lie because I can't remember what I lied about, and then I'll eventually screw it up. So I've had to build my whole life around being like violently transparent about everything because I just don't know enough to keep it up otherwise. I don't think that's everybody's strategy though. A few of my friends are like great negotiators and they will only tell everyone exactly as much as they need to know because that's how they live. That's what they've built their persona around. So everybody has a different tactic. Mine is like wild transparency.
I think you've made it work for you though. Like that example of like, look, these are what I would accept and this is what you're going to get for it. I think is a really awesome approach.
It keeps
Like
expectations good or
absolutely.
not good, but right, I guess. And
Absolutely.
it's harder for everybody to get angry about something they thought was going to happen if it's clear that X, Y, and Z are in place.
Absolutely. And then it goes back to that like self accountability, right? Like we had this conversation and we set the expectations and now it's like it's
Right.
on you.
I said it. You called me at
Yeah.
a weird hour. I told you, man. Like,
Yeah.
I'll talk to you tomorrow.
All right. Well, we're just about done here. I have one more final question, and it's gonna probably somehow, somewhat encompass some of your answers already. But just to kind of wrap it up, for anyone listening, what advice would you give in like under 30 seconds for people listening who are looking to either break into working in Web3 or advancing their career in Web3?
I would say don't be somebody else. Don't look at if you're trying to be an artist and you like what generative artists do and they do it with code and they only write in code and they use like I don't know Rust or something like that. Don't go learn Rust so you can code like them because then you're just trying to be them. Do something that's native to you, something that you think is really important and love, and do it every waking moment of every day as long as you want to, and become something that is valuable to someone. Because you can always, I mean, if you're trying to be somebody else, that person already exists. There's already a them. Like if I wanted to be an actor, I wouldn't try to be Nick Cage. Nick Cage is Nick Cage. We don't need another Nick Cage. Maybe we need a Donnie. Maybe the screen needs a Donnie. Maybe I need to go to more auditions, learn a ton of lines, memorize a ton of monologues, and just do it. Just become whatever it is I'm going to be. Because I think one of the beautiful things about humanity is that we each have individual perspectives. I'm going to go on a little bit of a tangent here. I was listening to an interview with Whitley Strieber. He's like this UFO guy who got abducted and talks about it. And he comes across as a nut job because, like, do aliens really exist? I don't know. But he talks about how the Greys, those aliens, don't have single minds. They're like a group. They're this big group. So they have no unique new thoughts. They have no creativity. And they're abducting us to be able to find out what it's like to have something unexpected happening. Basically, that they use us as a drug because we are still surprised. We don't know what's going to happen, even in our own lives, in our own decisions. We have no idea what's going to happen. So I think one of the most beautiful things about humanity, something that we take for granted, is that each of our experiences are super, super different. And what makes you you might be your biggest strength in getting hired rather than you trying to be someone else because that person already exists.
Well said. Well said. And I think it's an important reminder that people need to hear because oftentimes people may have the assumption that they need to fit into a box to get here. And I really appreciate what you just said of like, no, bring the tools and the skills and the awesomeness that you already have here. That's what we need. We need that because we don't have it yet. So bring that.
Man, if a Swiss Army knife has 10 of the same knife on it, it's not exactly a Swiss Army knife, right? It needs a corkscrew, it needs scissors, it needs a toothpick, even though you barely ever use it.
But one day you might. One day you might. And
It's on there
if
for a
you're that
reason.
toothpick, you want to be the best. You want to be the best toothpick
Be the
that you could
best
possibly
toothpick you can be.
be. Absolutely, that's the moral of the story. Donnie, bro, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time. I'll pass the mic back to you one more time for any final thoughts before we get out of here.
No, man, it was just really great talking to you as always. I'll see you on the beach, and everybody just be you, be as much you be.
Thanks, Donnie. See you on the beach soon. And please, if you're listening, make sure to follow Donnie. It's Donnie OK, working with the Famojis. Make sure to show the Famojis some love as well. as well as the Web3 Job Ops page, which is the main host of this space and powers these spaces every Wednesday, every Friday. And until next time, gang, we really appreciate you. Thank you, Ingrid. Shout out to Kramer. Shout out to B2Rad, any of our friends listening on YouTube or Spotify. We appreciate you. We're rooting for you, and we will be back very soon.